All right. Now let's move to the other method of addition of vector, which is parallelogram method. Okay. So we are going to add vector using the parallelogram method. Okay. There are different methods of adding vectors. Okay. Yes, we have the vectorial method where we add all the vectors moving in one particular direction together, and the other ones out in the other direction together, then add all of them together, take the square root, you are good to go. Okay, now how can we add vector using the parallelogram method? Okay, now there's what we call parallelogram laws of vector. Para, parallelogram law, parallelogram law. Okay, now I'm not going to write this on the board, but I will state it to my mouth. Okay, now let me tell you guys what parallelogram law is saying. Now, parallelogram law states that when two vectors are represented both in magnitude and direction by the side of a parallelogram. Now remember, this is how a parallelogram looks like this. Okay, this is a parallelogram. Okay, don't mind the way I draw it. Okay, now parallelogram law states that when two vectors are represented by the side of a parallelogram. Okay, so these are the what? These are the sides of what? The side of what? A parallelogram. Okay, yes. Now let me continue. Say is this law say that when two vectors, I can call this one A and B, are represented by the side of a parallelogram, are the line drawn from where they intersect, the line drawn from where these two vectors meet represents the resultant vector. That is just it. Represent what? The resultant vector. Okay? That is what parallelogram law is saying. Say that the side of a parallelogram represents the the two vectors represent the side of the parallelogram. Then from where these two vectors intersect, from where they meet, the line drawn from that point, that line represents what? The resultant vector. Remember, I told you guys the meaning of resultant vector. Resultant vector means total vector. Adding these two together give us the total vector. Okay, yes. So this is parallelogram law. Now the formula, if you look at the angle between these two vectors is not 90. These two vectors are not perpendicular. I don't know if you understand. So when we are going to solve for their resultant, we are not going to use Pythagorean's theory. No. If had it been these two vectors, they are like this, the side of a square or the side of a rectangle. This side is what they are perpendicular. If you look at this diagram, they are perpendicular. That is the angle between them is 90. Yes. In this type of diagram, we can use Pythagoras theory. R square equals to a square plus b square. But this is not. If you look at these two vectors, they are not inclined at 90. Okay, the angle in which they are inclined is less than 90. So we cannot use Pythagorean's theory. What we are going to use is cosine rule. Okay, what we are going to use to calculate now, if we add these two vectors together, we get what? The resultant. Okay, mind you, the value of the resultant must always be greater than any of the two. Let's say, for example, let's say A is 5 and let's say B is 7 or 8. If you solve and you have a result, your total to be, let's say, 3. Not that you are wrong, okay? Because the resultant, if you look at the line itself, look at the resultant is always longer than these two. So apart from that, that's to tell you that your answer must always be greater than any of the two vector. Okay? So we are going to use cosine rule. Cosine rule is what we can use to calculate for the resultant of these vectors that are represented by the side of a parallelogram. So this is the formula for cosine rule. R square is equals to a square. Now please take notes. There are different formula. But they are the same thing. I can decide to use P here. I don't even understand. So they are the same thing. I'm using A and B. A square plus B square, then plus minus um 2ab, then cos theta. Okay, the one they give you guys in your textbook is still correct. Okay, this one is still correct, so you can use any one. Okay, now the formula can either be in two dimension. You can have the one that here will be minus, here will be minus. We can have the one in which zero is minus. We can also have the one in which here will be what, plus. Now, how do you know which formula to use? If is it should we use the one with plus or minus? Depends on the direction of the vector. Now, if the three vectors, that is a, b, and the resultant, they come from a common point, they come from a common origin, use what? Yeah, we use plus. But if they don't come from a common origin, something like this, come in. Let me see. Okay, something like this. Something like this. Something like this. You will use the minus sign. Okay, yes, use minus sign. But the advice I will advise you guys is that please always use the one with that contain the plus sign, please, irrespective of the diagram. Just use the one that contains sign, the plus, please. But if you now solve, you didn't get your answer, you solve correctly, you didn't get your answer, you try the one with negative in this center. But please always use plus, please. Okay, so let's continue. So this is just it. This is how you can calculate for the resultant of the vector. Okay, yeah. If you want to make the resultant stand alone, to be r equals to what? Root a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. Okay, yes. Let me see if I can see any question under it, because there is no time. Okay. All right. Let me see. Oh, I don't think I see any. Yeah, but you can go through your textbook. You see. Okay, just put the value of the vector a, b, then put the angle. That is just it. Let's say they give angle of 60. You put the angle, then put all the values for a. Okay, let me just formulate. Let's say the angle is, let's say the a is 5. Then let's say b is 6. Then plus 2 times a is what? 5, b 5, b is 6. Then times the angle, let's say the angle is 60. Cos what? 60. Cos 60 is 0.5. Okay, so 5 square is 25, 6 square is 36, then plus 2 times 5 times 6, then times 0.5. 2 times 5 times 6 times 0.5 give us 30. Give us 30. Oh yeah, will give us 30. So adding everything, 30 plus 36 plus 25 will give us 91. Okay, give us 91. So everything here will be 91. Then we take the square root. Square root of 91, I think is 9. 9 times 9. Okay, no. That is 81. Okay, so square root of 91 is 9.5. Okay, it's 9.5. So this should be your answer. So that is just it. So just know your A, know your B. They'll give you the question, they know the angle. Finish. So that is all about parallelogram method of adding vector. Now, there's still one other part of vectors that I need to teach you guys. Very important. It's even more important than everything I've been teaching you guys since. And that is resolution of vector.